Well, hi, everybody, and welcome again to the Sunday Conversation. I'm Alan Masters. Today, I want to talk a little bit about Rush Limbaugh, Roy Masters, and us. Because for the last, say, 30, 40 years, we've all had, including me, because I'm 60 now, we've all had, in my case, my dad, Roy Masters, to lean on and to seek guidance from. And a lot of you also got that same kind of guidance when it comes to political thinking from Rush Limbaugh. And as did I. I said on the radio show, WWJD, what would Jesus do, for my spiritual side, and WWRD, which could be what would Roy do or what would Rush do for political or spiritual thinking. We always had somebody to lean on. And here we are. Rush is dead, and God rest his soul. He's a good man, but he wasn't a perfect man. Just like we talk about any of our presidents that we respected, Ronald Reagan even, wasn't a perfect man. He was a good man. Donald Trump, here's a guy that had lived a pretty tough life, a number of marriages and a number of failed businesses. But you know what? If you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, the way that Donald Trump was, he needed to learn some lessons, some tough lessons in life. So, God allowed him to have some failures because that's what it took for him to get character. Now, the same goes with Rush. I don't know what, he's married 3 or 4 times. It was not an easy time for him when it comes to the marriage side of things. One guy had written David and I an email saying, but Roy used to always talk about people that get cancer are rotten on the inside. Well, I'm sure there's a little bit of truth to that. There's no question about that. But, we don't know what is in store in our lives. We don't know what's going to take us down. I had a gallbladder almost kill me. And it was a gallbladder. It should have been, a 20-minute in and out, get your gallbladder taken out. I was in the hospital for 5 days. And it was like $100,000. Thank God I have insurance. But I learned a lot from that. I've learned a lot from my failures in life. I talked about that, I think, last week or the week before. Our failures in life are what really help us to grow, give us character, give us understanding, give us depth and width and understanding of what's going on in our lives and in this world today and with our families and our friends and our businesses. We need these failures. We need these mistakes. We need them because these are the tests of life. So what is life going to be like without Rush and without Roy? Took my dad for a haircut the other day. He was so sweet. He was just so sweet. He blew me a kiss at the end. It was like, I just thought that was just so cute. He's going to be 93 years old on April 2nd, as a lot of you guys know. 93 years old. Poor Rush was only 70. And, my dad could have been Rush Limbaugh's father. My dad is an amazing guy. And even in his elder years, he stays very calm, very cool. He is in a place where all of us need to be, which is that place of calm. And of course, even naming his meditation exercise, the Be Still and Know meditation exercise, he's trying to tell us all, be still. In that stillness is where we're going to find the answers. So, what's it going to be like without Rush and without Roy? Well, guess what? It's now on us. We've had plenty of years in high school and college of the school of hard knocks. Can we say that? We should be able to push away from the dock now and begin our journey of life by ourselves, without the crutches, without the Rush crutch for political, without the Roy crutch for spiritual. We have the Bible to help get us there. We have all the books that my dad has written and many other brilliant people have written about life. But at what time in our lives, at what point, I should say even better, at what point do we stop relying on others for all of our answers? That's really a good question, isn't it? At what point do we actually say, I'm going to be self-reliant? Self-reliant. It's actually kind of scary because it's so easy to say, well, Roy says this or Rush said that or, the Bible says this. But how do you deal with everyday problems and just things that happen in your life with your children, with your business, with your boss, with your employees, with taxes that are due that, oh my gosh, I had no idea it was going to be that much and I don't have that much money or whatever it is. How do you deal with that? Do you run to your Bible and say, what does it say about paying taxes? What did Roy say about it? What did Rush say? What did whoever the guru of the week is say about that? I used to have a friend that would always come to me and he would say, hey, I'm thinking about buying this, that, or the other, car, house, whatever it is. And I would say, yeah? And he'd say, what do you think about it? And I remember I would always give my advice. I would say, well, I would do this and I would do that. And at a certain point, I said to him, what do you think about it? And I realized that is really the most important thing. Listen, I'm always here to help. I'm always here to help people with their problems. I'm always wanting to, help somebody find a house, a car, a rental, whatever it is, an answer to a question or a problem. But I realize more and more and more that am I being a crutch too? Have I been a crutch to my kids' friends? I don't know. It's been probably a good 10 years ago I started realizing I need to turn people back on themselves. They need to be self-reliant. Otherwise, we're all depending on each other for every damn thing. And what good comes out of that? But then you become, dependent. And then you have this codependent thing because you gave them a good advice. Maybe, I don't know what to do. I'm going to ask so-and-so. Maybe he'll know or she'll know or whatever it is. And then you never really have to do the homework or the spiritual searching on your own. No, we need to become more self-reliant. So what's life going to be like without Rush, without Roy, without our crutches? I don't know. You're going to have to throw them down, throw the crutches down, and take a few steps out into the world and start to deal with things and forget about what Rush would say. Forget about what Roy would say. What would you say? How would you deal with it? Learning how to unlearn, because we have all these canned answers. We have all these pre-recorded things we can say. We have all these verses and chapters. But what about dealing with it in the moment, in a quiet, calm way, so that you can actually ask God what to do without having to even have words? It's just being still and being present so that God can show you what to do. And I'm not saying every time you get somebody that comes up to you and says, hey, what do you think about this or that? You go, I'm going to pause for a minute. Hang on. No, it isn't like that at all. It's just living in that calm place. The ability to learn how to just slow down a notch. One notch. If I talk about cars a little bit, it's because I really enjoyed cars. And I remember hearing one time when he says, well, the timing is one notch off. And he says, we got to retard the timing or, push the timing forward. And I remember going, huh? What? What does that mean? Well, the electricity comes out of the distributor and it distributes electricity to all the different cylinders. And if the timing is off, they're going to fire at the wrong place when the piston isn't ready for it. It's not all the way up or it's part way down. And it needs to be just at the right place. And then the spark plug fires and it pushes the piston back down. It's probably getting too detailed, but when a car's timing is off, it just doesn't run right. That's the crux of the story. If your timing is off, things just aren't right. That's the crux of the story. So how about if we just back off one notch and let things just kind of hang in the air for a moment And you'll see all of a sudden, you'll just kind of go, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. Or yes, the answer is yes. People don't mind you pausing call it a pregnant pause, just for a moment, a fraction of a moment, as my dad would say, a fraction of a moment. I remember him saying that now, and I never really even took it to heart. Just back off for a fraction of a moment. And that tiny little pause allows God to enter the scene versus just being willful or ambitious and just, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah. Just hang on a second here. I had to make a decision on something, as a matter of fact, today. And I knew immediately what the answer was. I just knew what it was. I read this email, and it was, should we do this or should we do that? And I thought to myself, well, I know what the answer is. And it's a pretty serious situation. And I said, no, we're not going to do anything. We're going to wait. And that in itself, the doing of nothing, and I've talked about it before, the power of the pause, I think we called it, has its own life, because now you put the onus on the other person. And they're like, what happened? We made an offer, or we asked if we could do this, and they said no, which means we have to come up with another solution. Maybe the second solution is better than the first offer just because somebody made an offer. So I'm just trying to say that, listen, we need to be self-reliant. Every single one of us. We need to strive harder and reach higher and reach more often for the Father in heaven instead of a crutch that's laying in the corner. Yeah, that's really the answer. Self-reliance, self-confidence, courage, character, things that we don't use enough of. God gave us these things. We haven't nurtured these things in ourselves, and it's not always our fault. Sometimes you just need that aha moment of, yeah, that's right. I haven't really been being self-reliant. I've always asked somebody else, what do you think? I do tons of research and I gather all this intellectual information, and then I go, oh no, now it's even worse than it was because I have 5 options instead of the 2 I thought I had. Instead, get quiet. Sit in a chair in a room by yourself in the dark and see what answers come. See what scary things come. Because maybe some of them will be scary. All designed to trip you up. It's a snare. This mind is an amazing, amazing gift from God. We're not animals. We don't need to run off of instinct. We need to run off of a higher power, a supernatural power that most of us just don't tap into in our lives. We just don't tap into it. I'm beginning to tap into it, and my God, is it beautiful. And it's so simple. I used to try and rely on myself, and I used to try and rely on knowledge and information and books and research and all this, and then I get lost in the research. I can't even remember what I was starting to think in the beginning when I was compelled to do the research. I'm like, where was I? What was I really asking? What was I supposed to do? Uh-oh, I forgot. And then you look back at your notes or whatever and like, oh yeah. Sometimes you just got to push it all away and go for a walk, go for a drive, go for a jog, go sit in a room that you can't hear anything, like this little room right here. Be by yourself. Learn how to be by yourself. Be self-reliant. It's actually quite fun because then you are actually with God instead of filling that void with other people, crutches, distractions, drugs, food, whatever it's going to be. So, what is life without Rush? We're going to miss Rush Limbaugh. We're going to miss him. I'm personally going to miss him. I didn't listen every day. I didn't listen every week. I wouldn't listen sometimes for months. But there are years there where I enjoyed listening to him and watching him going through his trials and tribulations just like all of us do. We've all seen it. I mean, he went deaf and had to have I think it's called an ocular implant or schmocular implant or whatever it is. You could see it on the side of his head. He had a drug dependency for a while for prescription drugs, multiple wives. I mean, going through hell, but he kept honing his craft, whittling away at it until actually toward the end of his life here, he found something. I guess I could say he found joy. He probably had a much, much, much better relationship with his wife, with his family, with his employees, with God. And if you read about him, you know that he found himself at the end, which most of us do, I think, I hope. Well, maybe not. I sure hope I do. I'm working on it. Every day, I desire to know the truth. I desire to know what my purpose is. Don't you want to know yours? What else is there? I was talking today to a very, very wealthy man, and he was telling me how I lost $5 million on this deal and I lost $1.5 million on that deal. And I was like, well, did you learn anything from it? He said, well, yeah, of course I did. Yeah, of course I did. And I thought to myself, was that a $5 million education? Yep. Maybe $6.5 million, maybe $10 million. I don't know. He's had a lot of educations. Did Donald Trump learn some billion-dollar educations? Oh, I'm sure he did. So we all have, there's a cost to our education, whether you go to Harvard, which, yeah, or you go through the school of hard knocks. So, but I'm learning how to be self-reliant. And man, what a different world. What a different world. I don't search my mind for who can help me answer this problem, this question, who can do this for me so I don't have to learn this skill. We're, I think, inherently lazy creatures. And I don't want to be lazy. I don't like being lazy. It doesn't feel right. I know that by the sweat off my brow shall I earn my bread. I know that's important. And I learn character and I learn skills and I learn things I talked about last week. It's so funny. I talked about stainless steel nails. Okay? It's so interesting how many people caught that and said, yeah, stainless steel nails. Yeah, I hate when those nails drip when you build a fence. And then I had one of my car buddies who's a real craftsman building this crazy $250,000 hot rod. And he says, yeah, I was listening to your talk. And he goes, I was thinking, baloney, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, and then you got to the fence building part. Stainless steel nails. That's cool. So, I mean, we're going to learn from however we have to learn. That's why, to me, it's important that I tell some stories about life, that I bring it to the table in a different way than my dad did. My dad was like Einstein. He was the guy on the chalkboard figuring out E equals MC squared. I'm the guy that's kind of trying to put it into action now because it's been figured out. It's been taught to me and you. Now we got to go put it into practice. He was able to put it into practice. Einstein was brilliant. He was able to put his into practice, but his life was a little screwed up. But my dad, to me, he's like Einstein in many ways, but even better because he figured out the mathematical equation of life. I don't know what is R equals MC squared, Roy equals MC squared in many ways, but now it's up to us to be self-reliant and put it into action. Okay? So however it's going to come to you, however you're going to learn your lesson, whether it be a stainless steel nail or a story of Dr. Pimple Popper, I guess I said it wrong. I think that was just hilarious. Or whatever. I mean, it's going to be a story. And to me, stories are wonderful. The parables in the Bible, many of the stories in the Bible are just wonderful. And Jesus often, taught beautiful things in little wonderful stories. So I think to myself, you know what? I've always been a storyteller. Maybe some of them were lies in the beginning of my life. You're telling a story, my mom would say. she meant I was lying. But as I go through life, now I can actually pull from my life's experiences and the lives of people that I've dealt with and married and my children and their friends, and we can actually come together and learn from each other. Learn from each other. I read the letters that you send me. I read the emails. Thank you. Please send me right here, alan@fhu.com. Send me an email. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. We're talking about, getting rid of this backdrop behind us, maybe taking this wonderful old Bible from the 1800s. Look at it. It's kind of just falling apart. But, maybe because one of my friends says, what do you have with that Bible in front of you? Look at this monster. It's just falling apart. But okay, so, all right, Tom, so you don't like the Bible? I'll move it aside. I don't need the Bible. And maybe I'll just put my dad's book in front of me. Cure stress. Everything out of the way. Glasses, phone. Do I need anything? I don't need anything. What do you think? Send me an email. Let me know. Comment on the video. I'm learning how to enjoy doing this because the Bible's leaving a lot of dusty stuff there, a couple of dead moths. Because I actually do hear from you folks that some of these conversations actually help you. Thank you, God, for using me to help myself and them in the process. My wife always says to me, what'd you talk about today? I said, I haven't got a clue. I can't even remember because I just come in, I sit down, and I start talking about one little thing. This time it was, what are we going to do now without our crutches? Roy and Rush and whoever your crutch may have been or may be. You got to, you got to be like that story about the boat. It says, how does it go? It's, your journey doesn't begin until you untie from the dock and push off and leave the harbor. And it's time for us all to begin our journeys honestly, without the crutches, without the excuses, without the excuses. We are excuse-making machines. But without the excuses and without the crutches, being self-reliant, I think that's a big one. It really does feel good when you look inside for the answers and you don't rely on all those friends and all those places you go now. A lot of people are now leaving social media, and a friend of mine who just recently did it, he says, gosh, I will never go back. I feel so much better without that gigantic distraction. He goes, I'm finding myself again. Yeah, that one just kind of came out of nowhere. Social media, addiction. So let's learn how to be self-reliant. That's going to be my message for the day. WWJD and WWRD. And then whatever your first name is, in my case, WWAD. What would Alan do? That's all I care about for me. What should I do? God, what should I do? And then just move forward. See you next week.